Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome to my video for the card I created for the Breast Cancer Research Foundation blog Hop with Ellen Hutson. This is the stamp set that I'm using. It's called Courage, and it's got some really nice multi-step flower stamps that I'm going to use on my card today. So I'm going to start with 3 different Memento Luxe pigment inks for the 3 steps of this flower. I'm using the lightest one first. It's called Angel Pink. I'm going to use my Stamp-A-Majig for the second step to make it easier. It just got a handle with a right angle, and I just put my plastic sheet and stamp my stamp, and then I'll put it exactly where I want to, put the handle back on, remove my sheet, and then I'll line it up exactly where I need to. And it makes it a lot easier to use that plastic sheet. You can totally see through it and line it up perfectly. And then the third stamp is with the Love Letter ink. For the remainder of my flowers, I'm using this set of Altenew inks, this gray neutral set. For the big flowers, I'm going to use the middle 2 colors. The first solid stamp, I'm going to use the lighter of the 2 colors, and I'm going to stamp one on either side of this pink flower. For the second step of this flower, I'm actually going to use white. This is just some Color Box white ink, and I'm using my Stamp-A-Majig again to get that second stamp lined up really well. So I'm going to ink that up and stamp it right down on top of the gray, and that'll give me kind of a lighter color in between. And then for the third step, I'm going to use the darker of the 2 colors, and again I'm going to use my Stamp-A-Majig to make sure it gets lined up perfectly. And the great thing about this is, if you notice here, it didn't stamp the whole thing, so I had to press it down again, and luckily I had my handle still in place and I could stamp it right back in that same spot. Now for the outer roses, I'm going to be using the lightest 2 of the 4 inks of the set. There are actually only 2 steps in this particular flower, so I'm going to stamp the first one with the lightest ink. I'm going to stamp the middle one, and then I'm going to stamp one on either side of it, and it is a little bit of a tight squeeze, but if it overlaps a little bit, it's not a big deal because they're the same color. And then I put 3 on the top to match. For the second step of the stamp, I'm using the darker of the 2 colors that I have selected, and I wasn't too worried about lining this up. I just sort of rotated it and fit it wherever it made sense. I wanted to have some stems sticking out, so I'm going to create a mask, one large and one small, and I'm going to use again the lightest 2 colors in the set, and I'm going to mask the big flower and then the small flower next to it, and I'm going to stamp kind of that bigger stem in the lighter color, and then I'm going to stamp the smaller stem in the darker color twice, one leaning to the right and one leaning to the left. And then I'm going to pick up that mask for the small flower and just move it over to the other side and repeat the same thing. And so I'll have that back one be the lighter color and then 2 darker ones in the front. And I did that on all 4 sides, so it was a nice symmetrical bunch of flowers. There's still some white showing in between all my flowers, and so I wanted to fill that up with some color. So there is a small set of dots for the center of the small roses, and I'm just going to use that. I'm going to repeat it with the 2 lightest colors to just fill in that area. I wanted to have a little bit of black in here to match my sentiment, so I'm going to stamp the centers of all these flowers with some Hero Arts black ink. And I felt like I needed just a little bit more, so I took a black marker and added a few more dots to the larger flowers just to kind of expand the area a little bit. I trimmed this panel out so that I would have 1/16 of an inch mat all the way around. And now I want to add just a really subtle frame. And to do that, I'm going to put it in my scoreboard. This is just a Martha Stewart mini scoreboard. And I'm going to score from each side 1/8 of an inch in. This will add a really nice detail to the background without any distraction. All right, now it's time for my sentiment. I'm going to line it up in my MISTI, and what I'm going to do is I want to make the word you a different color. So I'm going to take some surgical tape. This is just some thin paper tape, and I doubled it up in all areas except that area I just put down, just to kind of experiment a little bit. And I'm going to use that the Rosebud ink that I used on that second step of the rose in the middle of the card. And then I'm going to take my tape off and stamp it down. And you can see that there was a little bit of pink on the G, which is no big deal because the rest is going to be black. It'll just cover over it. But you can see you really need a double layer of that tape because sometimes it can seep through. So the next time I covered up the U and I stamped the rest, and Hero Arts black ink. Now I'll put some ATG tape runner on the back of this panel and adhere it to some hot pink paper. And then I'm gonna adhere this to my card base, and I'm gonna use the corner of my MISTI to make sure that I get everything lined up perfectly. So I just sort of hover on top of it until I get it into the corner, and then I press down. And that is the card for today. So I hope you enjoyed this blog hop, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.